Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about Valorant's newest agent, ISO. ISO is the brand new duelist agent coming to Valorant on October 31st. He has been available to some pros. His reveal was teased and then eventually leaked by some pro players. That was pretty funny. But we now know what this agent is going to look like and what his abilities are, and we're going to talk about if I personally think that this agent is going to be OP or mid or bad. I will be showing some gameplay of these abilities that we'll be talking about, but first let's just go through them. Abilities Contingency. So it is an indestructible shield that moves forward. It's very similar to Harbor's shield where he throws it and then it just goes. That allows the team to continue pushing up while having a barrier around them. I don't know if it's specifically see-through. It doesn't look like it is. I will show it right here. Sorry about this layout with the video plane looking kind of rough. I did this very quickly. I'll think of something else for different videos. But anyway, as we can see it here, so he throws it out. Yeah, you can't really see through it. Pushes, can't shoot through it. It is indestructible. So it is very similar to the Harbor wall, but it has a different angle and might be useful for tighter corners. Then we have the double tap, which when activated starts a focus timer. If you kill an enemy while this timer is on, an orb will appear and you gotta shoot it. If you do shoot it, it will grant you a shield. It will absorb 1 instance of damage, as we can see it here. As we can see right here against this Reyna in the reveal trailer, he shoots an orb, gets a shield, and then all of a sudden he is protected. And as we can see here, it can protect against Raze ults. You see how that's completely absorbed now. So that will be a very useful ability to blocking out that Raze ult, because that Raze ult can be an extremely annoying thing to deal with, especially when your team is all together and you just hear that ever so loved fire in the hole and then two blast packs and then your whole team is just wiped out. So that could be a very useful way of countering that ultimate, which hasn't been a super OP ultimate, but definitely has been a problem. And the description does say 1 instance of damage, so as we can see, it can block an ult. So how much damage can this thing take? It appears to be kind of random with just whatever instance. So if you get shot once, that'll be the instance. If you get an ultimate against you, that'll be the instance, that kind of stuff. And then we have Undercut, which is a very interesting ability. It shoots a molecular bolt, briefly debuffing whoever it hits, so it gets them to be a bit more fragile. It can pass through walls. It's very similar to Omen Flash. As we can see it used here, he throws it, goes through the wall. So you were able to see the enemies, but that was because of Fade's ability, not because of ISO. So that was a bit confusing when I first saw it. They just didn't really do a great job explaining exactly how it worked in the gameplay reveal trailer, but that's not, it doesn't reveal enemies, it just debuffs them. So it can pass through walls. It's basically like an Omen Flash, but instead of flashing, it debuffs. So as we can see from these 3 abilities, they're basically just copycats of abilities that other agents have, but they're just tweaked in a certain way to make them this kind of playstyle. The Contingency, very similar to Harbor's wall, as I talked about. The double tap, very similar to Reyna's eye. And the Undercut having the same properties as an Omen Flash, but instead of being a flash, it does debuff. So we're kind of getting to the point in Valorant where Riot doesn't seem to know what to do as to make completely unique abilities and completely unique playsets. There's just a lot of characters in the game now that have very similar abilities. ISO does seem a bit more unique than previously new agents, but at the same time, as we can see, these abilities are quite similar to other abilities, just changed to work differently. So when you have this many agents in the game, that's bound to happen. You're going to see some of these copycat abilities or abilities that seem very similar, but it is kind of troublesome that Riot can't seem to find a ton of brand new creativity to change their game. But we'll see how future agents do in that department. But one thing that is very unique about ISO is his ultimate, which is the main reason why I'm making this video today, because it is a very, very interesting ability. It is called Kill Contract. It takes 7 ultimate points. Didn't write that down, but that's what I remember. It traps the first enemy it hits into a 1v1 arena. Both players have full 150 health, and it ends after 50 seconds, but it's a 1v1. You have to kill them before 50 seconds. If no player dies, then they both die at that 50-second mark. So this is very interesting, and this is definitely something that I could see being really cool, but also kind of abused at the same time. While it is a 1v1 and both players will have a even playing ground, except for ISO will have a slight advantage because he spawns behind 2 barriers, so he can kind of choose where he goes first versus the player he traps, which will just have 1 barrier. So you will have the slight edge there, but aside from that, in terms of ammo and in terms of just health and everything like that, there will be an even playing ground. As we can see again from the gameplay trailer, this is how it works. So he traps an enemy, getting into an arena, he gets 2 barriers, the other one gets 1, and it's just a straight up 1v1, and whoever has the best aim wins. So this is much, much more unique than anything we've seen in Valorant to this point. We've never seen something that traps both players in a separate arena, basically, and then has them duke it out. So it is quite an interesting ability. There's been a lot of memes of it online. There's been a lot of talk of it online saying, is this balanced? Is this good? And my main concern about it comes with the fact that both players die after 50 seconds. While this ability is very unique and seems very fun, and I'm excited about it, at the same time, it does seem like something that can be cheesed or exploited, because you're going into the separate arena and both players die after 50 seconds. So let's say it's like a 2v1 and ISO traps the one into a ultimate, and then all of a sudden it's a 1v1. All he really has to do is just wait out the clock for 50 seconds. Now granted, there's no cover in this arena, so it's just straight up 1v1, so whoever is the one can definitely kill him if the ISO is just jumping around trying to mess around. But I can see that happening. Like maybe not at pro level, but in, ranked especially, I could see that happening, because if the player's aim is bad enough, you can just jump around, do loops like that, just bunny hop all over the place. So I can see that being something that could be exploited. It's unlikely because, again, there's no cover. You can just shoot at them until you eventually hit them. But it is something that it doesn't have a huge potential of being exploited, but it does have a little bit of potential of being exploited, and that's kind of my concern with it. So all these abilities do complete what I see as a pretty unique agent coming to Valorant. I haven't been excited for new agents in quite a bit, but ISO does seem really cool. He seems really fun as well. I think the ultimate, again, super unique, really fun idea, and it could make for some really cool highlights at the pro level as well. His regular abilities don't excite me too much because, again, they work as previous abilities that we've seen in other agents work, but now they're just different. Like the undercut doesn't exactly excite me too much. It's just a debuff. Double tap is a cool idea, though. I do like it. It's basically like a little aim labs thing. You shoot a guy and then shoot another thing. So with aim labs, with all the dots and stuff, just going like that. If you know aim labs, you know how it works, and you know what I'm talking about. The contingency, I like it as well, but it doesn't seem like... It's just interesting that this is like a duelist ability now, because we have Harbor, who has the same kind of ability with his wall, but he's not a duelist. He's a smokes character. He's more of a support role versus ISO, who is a duelist. So I guess this will be good for entry fragging, for duelists just being able to create that space for their team. So I can see that happening, but does that make Harbor less useful now? Because if you have ISO, are you going to use that a lot? Is ISO going to be as viable as other duelists in the game? We know Jett is nerfed now. Jett is not as good anymore. Raze is still a viable option for duelists. She has very just kind of kill-oriented abilities. Reyna, the same. She has a flash, so that's kind of a support thing, but it's not really anything too crazy. I think he'll be more useful than Yoru. Yoru is still a very kind of solo-ish kind of character. It's hard to really support your team too much as a Yoru player. There have been some players that have figured him out, like Tens, but he's not really a character that is super useful all the time. I do think ISO's abilities do help the team a bit more than Yoru's. Well, not just a bit more, a lot more, to be honest. Just the shield alone makes that true. Phoenix is obviously Phoenix. He's not very good still. Maybe he'll get buffed at some point. Don't know. But I do think ISO is going to be better than him. And then the last comparison is Neon. Neon and ISO seem to be very different, but I could actually see them complementing one another. Having the ISO shield and then having the Neon wall come up, I think there's some pretty insane opportunities for that, because you could just throw up the Neon wall and then you throw ISO's wall, and then you can just go. There is literally no vision available for the enemy team, so that could be something that I could see being very useful. The undercut is a good support ability, so I could see that being good for team composition as well. I do really like his character set here. I do think he has some very interesting abilities, and I think this is definitely a duelist built to help the team a bit more and not just be a solo kind of character, a character for people that just run out in the open and try to kill everybody and either fail or succeed. He seems to have that ability, though. I think the double tap is definitely a good example of that. I think the shield is going to be a very, very useful thing in a lot of situations. But is he going to be better than the best duelist in the game? It's yet to be seen. I do think he has a potential. I think he's going to be a very good agent. I do like this moveset a lot. We'll see what happens, because basically we won't really know if he's going to be OP or not until like 3 months from now, or at least in pro play. We'll see him during ranked. We'll see him in our own games and how he performs there. But once we get to the VCTCs starting up again, then we'll really truly see at the highest level of Valorant if ISO is useful or not. Anyways, that is all for me today. Let me know in the comments below what you think of ISO and if you think he's going to be a good character or a bad character. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!